Okay guys, this is Rob, following up from Dave's video the other day about present value. That related to a standard debenture question. And I've had a few questions, or we've had a few questions online about convertible notes. So basically what I want to do here is take you through what we're doing with convertible notes and then look at the calculations. Now the key things to pick up with convertible notes, that a convertible note is basically a debenture where you have a right to turn it into shares at some stage in future. So when you get a convertible note, it is basically a debenture, so there's a liability component there, but at some stage in the future you can convert that to shares. Now what's the advantage of that? Well, the advantage is if there is a possibility of converting to shares, there is a possible sharing in the upside. So if stuff goes really well, these guys can become shareholders and therefore share in some of the profits. So what that means, it basically means that they might be willing to tolerate a lower rate of interest on their debentures in exchange for this convertibility option. Okay, so in terms of accounting, if people are going to give us a certain amount of cash for these convertible notes, how do we work out how much is the liability component and what this option to convert to shares is worth? Well, measuring the option directly is hard, but we can measure the debenture by asking the question, how much would people pay if a debenture without an option was offered on the market, a debenture of similar risk? So that's the information we're looking for to come up with a value for the debenture. Now we know how much cash we get from the convertible notes because we know how much they were issued for. So if we know the cash, we know what people would pay for the debenture. The difference between the cash and what they'd pay for the debenture must be the value of the option. So the equity component, the option, is the difference between the cash received and the liability option. Alright, so let's go through question 5 from spring 2011. I won't read through the question. Basically we can pick up the key bits of information from here. There's 1,000 convertible notes with a face value of $1,000 each. So that means the face value is $1 million. The coupon rate is 10%. So that means the coupon payment, 10% of $1 million, is $100,000. I hope that fits there. Yep, 100,000. Okay, what else do we have? There's some information here about when they can be converted. We don't really care about that here. The term is 10 years, so N equals 10. That's another bit of information. Now we're told that on the date of issue, the market interest rate commanded by instruments of a similar term and risk was 11%. So what that's basically saying is, if somebody was just buying these debentures, similar debentures without a convertibility option, they would be willing to pay 11%. So that's your market interest rate. Okay, so we're going to use that to work out how much people would pay for the liability. Alright, well given that, what do we need to discount? We need to discount the face value of $1 million, and that's at a market rate of 11%, and it's 10 years away. Now, you don't have the factors in the book for 11%. You can probably work out an approximate factor. What we did for that exam was we actually gave you the factors in the back. So here's the annuity factor for 10 years, and we want 11%. Now, I'm a little bit blind, but I think this is the one. 10 years, 11%. Yes, I'm blind, but not that blind. So 5.889 is the factor for an annuity. So that's the annuity factor. Okay, and pardon me. And the factor for the face value is here. Sorry. 11%, 10 years, 0.352. So 0.352 discounts the 1 million. Right, and that will basically tell you what people are willing to pay for the debenture. So if you do those calculations, you should get a present value of 940,900, I think. Okay, so that is how much people would pay for the debentures if there was no option attached. Well, That's the amount that we credit to the liability, the debentures. Now, we want to work out how much they would pay for the option. Well, we know that the amount of the equity equals the amount of the cash minus the amount of the liability. We know the total amount raised was 1064177. The convertible notes were issued for a total of 1,064,177. So 1064177 minus the amount that we've put to the options, sorry, to the debentures, that gives us a value for the options of 123,277. Okay, so what's the journal entry going to be? Well, the journal entry needs to be a debit to cash. Obviously, it's the amount of cash raised, right? If you don't have the amount of cash raised being debited to cash, then you've done something wrong. The credit to the debentures is the amount you calculated in A, so 940,900. And the credit to the options, you can say debenture option or options or even equity here. I'll just say options. The credit to the options is 123,277. So that's basically how you do this question. Now watch out, there's some information here you don't need. In particular, you don't need to know anything about the convertibility. There's also a red herring here. We tell you that for your information, the amount raised gives us an internal rate of return of 9%. We don't care about that. Okay? We're not worrying about discounts or premia. We're just recording the debentures, the option, and the cash. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Good luck in the exam.